That's rubbish.
No, listen.
It is.
John. No, I don't. Look, I think you need to calm down, John. All right. I just literally said, I just wonder if there's any sort of like chance that some of this data that's coming back is not correct. That's all I was saying. Okay.
Today we are fortunate enough to have the Spectrum Professor of Marketing. I think that's your latest job title.
Me.
Did you? You're the professor of something, mate. Not marketing.
So yeah, Bax has joined us for the pod.
Thank you.
Welcome back again, Bax.
What? I mean, I'm always here, aren't I? Really?
Yeah, but normally we hide you behind camera, don't we?
Yeah.
And this time we've let you in front.
As they say, I probably have got a face for radio.
That's true. I didn't want to say it.
And a voice for books. So, yeah, that was a nice intro as well. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
How you doing, John?
I'm doing good.
Yeah, good. It's good
I can't wait to hear what you've got for us.
So sorry, what was the question?
Oh yeah, I've not asked the question. This is just the introduction at this point.
Okay.
So my question is, obviously you spend a lot of time watching, or so you're telling me anyway, watching, listening, reading about all things marketing.
Yeah.
So the question is, what is 2023? What are you watching? What are you listening to when it comes to marketing?
What's going on in the old bonds of Bax? Yeah.
Is it still the 4 Ps?
I've never been.
You're not a 4P man, are you?
No. I'm a gorilla, aren't I?
Yeah.
Can I just stop you there, right? Yeah. Every pod, you always say, we need to be leaning here. And the first thing you do is lean back.
What are you on about, mate? I've sustained this composition the whole time.
I think we'll review that.
Actually, can I just say, I felt a bit of a fool actually, because you know the last pod with Mike.
Yeah.
So I was like this on the mic, right? And I thought, I can't mess this up. Like I can't get any closer than this, yeah. And then when I was doing the EQ in the audio, I'm hearing like every time I'm talking. And I was like, oh, what an idiot. Like after all my spiel, I'm ruining the audio. So I'm staying in this sort of zone. Is this zone's kind of all right?
A little bit closer.
I should be a little bit closer. What's going on?
Can you remember the question?
Yeah, I do. What I like to do is bring to the team, and I'll bring to you also, is little stories. I think little examples and gems, because it really makes things hit home. So I'm like kind of obsessed with Coke and Pepsi at the minute. It was actually Neil who said to me, oh, you should watch this. There's this Netflix series called Pepsi Where's My Jet?
I've seen it. I've not watched it yet. So fill us in.
Seen
I've seen it on Netflix. It's on Netflix, isn't it?
Right. So basically, I reckon in sort of like the late 90s, Pepsi were doing this thing where it was like, they had this campaign and it was basically drink Pepsi or buy Pepsi, win stuff. So basically, every time you bought a can of Pepsi, you would get like some Pepsi points, right? And if you got enough Pepsi points, you could buy like, you know, Pepsi shades or Pepsi leather jacket or whatever, right? It's a classic marketing technique, yeah. But in the advert, and this is as creatives, this could, you know, we would do something like this because we want to catch people's attention. So in the advert, there's this kid and he's like walking through this school and he's like, you know, Pepsi shades, 400 points, and he puts them on and he's like, Pepsi leather jacket, 1,000 points. And then this like Harrier jet like lands in the playground and he's in it and it goes, Harrier jet, 7 million points. And then boom. And the kid that's watching it, I say a kid, he's like 20, notices that there's no fine print underneath the 7 million points. So he's like, right, so technically that's a legitimate offer, right? If I can get 7 million Pepsi points, I can get a Harrier jet. And he works out like the cost of a Harrier jet is like $33 million. So he's like, so basically it'll be cheaper for me to buy that Harrier jet with the Pepsi points and then I'll have a jet and I can do whatever, sell it to whatever. BAE. And he manages to rope in this like millionaire business mogul guy to like fund this whole project. And they go on this big back and forth against Pepsi, where basically Pepsi are, you know, bringing out all the lawyers and everything, and they're trying to like, you know, obviously
get away from that deal as quickly as possible.
Yeah. And they actually like, the ad came out a few weeks later, but this time it said 700 million Pepsi points. And they were like, right, so that's an admission of fault. That's an admission of guilt, right? Because why would they change it? Because initially they were saying it was obviously a joke. And it's like, I mean, it obviously was a joke, right? But that's what fine print's all about, right? And if the fine print's not there, then, you know...
Free for all.
Free for all. So you go... Anyway, so I won't spoil the rest of it, but it's very interesting. And the editing style for Ellie is so nice. It's so playful and so just cool. It's in terms of documentaries, it's one of the most interesting and cool and playful sort of approaches to filmmaking that I've seen in a while. Anyway, so it got me thinking, Coke, Pepsi, the Coke Wars. Yeah. Not to be mistaken with the old...
The Colombian version.
The Colombian Wars. And so I've been like ingesting quite a lot of stuff about the Coke Wars and Pepsi and Coke and why did Coke take the lead, and you know, because Pepsi at that time in the 90s, it's the Pepsi generation. They had MTV, they had all of like the main celebrities.
Jacko, was Jacko Pepsi's?
Yeah.
Remember that?
You're the Pepsi generation.
Please, you're singing.
It's just a girl. So I've got a little story about Coke and Pepsi. Not really stories, some learnings. So New Coke. So we was chatting about this earlier. So you know, New Coke. You'll remember it. You remember when it?
Do you remember it? Because I don't remember it. No. I heard about it, but do you remember?
I can't really remember when it was, but it was a while ago.
Must have been before early 90s.
Back in prehistoric times.
So yeah, they brought out New Coke, right? So again, I might not get all of the details exactly right, but essentially what happened was they did some taste tests between Pepsi and Coke, and this was like quite a common thing, right? And people would always report preferring the taste of Pepsi to Coke. And Coke was like flabbergasted, like, we're the kings, but like we could lose out to Pepsi because people clearly prefer the taste, right? So they come up with New Coke, which was like a lot sweeter, because people often say that Pepsi is sweeter than Coke. Personally, I don't really know it's a difference.
I don't
really.
But you get these weirdos, don't you, that are just like, oh, I could tell if it's Pepsi or Coke. And I just think, just crawl back into your hole.
You see, if we prepared, we could have had Coke and Pepsi.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Meeting of minds.
Oh, that'd have been good. Maybe we can...
Should we pause and...
No, let's just slot in a little segment that we'll film later.
Okay.
Of us doing it.
Good. Like that.
Right.
Yeah.
See, literally real-time marketing going on there.
Okay, so if you're listening to this currently, then you might be a bit confused for a second, but we're doing the Coke versus Pepsi taste challenge that we referred to earlier, and I get to go first. So, off we go. This must be thrilling for our listeners. I'm thinking Pepsi to that. I don't really drink Coke or Pepsi, so this is even more difficult for me. Right, I'm going Pepsi, Coke.
Could you see? Yeah. What would you like to check?
Oh no.
So that's supposed to be Pepsi in your mind.
Ah. We've not started well. Team Spectrum have started badly. I'm going to pass the baton over to JV now.
Right. Off we go then. I know what that is. Thought I knew what that was. Oh my God. It's not really ideal. It's like trying two red wines and your palate hasn't cleared, but I'm going to have to go again. Yeah, no, I'm going to go. Are they both full fat? I'm going to go Pepsi, Coke. Please tell me. Seriously? No. No way. I was absolutely convinced. It smells like Pepsi. It tastes like Pepsi. It's Coke. Gutted.
Okay, so word on the street is that Steve and JV are equally bumbling idiots. Can't get this right. But I think you know your boy in marketing is going to get it correct, okay? And I'm going to try a different tact, right? I'm going to start with this one on the left, if you're listening, because they all started with the one on the right. I don't know if that's going to help, but let's see. And I noticed Steve was doing a bit of the old. We've got a spit bucket. That one's quite sweet. They do smell different. Oh, they taste exactly the same, man. The one on my left is Kirk. Have I got it right? Backs 1, JV and Steve, -1. Back to the pod, or back to the chat, or whatever. For Pepsi and Coke. But anyway, so people would taste Pepsi and Coke, and people would always say we prefer Pepsi because and so Coke came out with new Coke, which was sweeter than the Coke could, ordinarily be, and it absolutely bombed, and no one liked it. And
it wasn't Coke.
Well, not only that, but because, and this is where there's a great mind called Malcolm Gladwell. So if you've ever heard of this 10,000 hours concept, he popularized that in a book called Outliers, where essentially, for anyone that doesn't know what that means, he states that it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert in any set field. So any expert that you can think of, 10,000 hours, which is an average of 3 hours a day for 10 years. But some people can get that 10,000 hours in 3 years or 5 years, depending on how obsessed they are with that thing. So a good example, going slight tangent, but a good example was he said that the Beatles got their 10,000 hours in less than 3 years because they played in
Hamburg.
Yeah, and they played every night or whatever for like 6 hours. And so they just like got it stacked. So anyway, Malcolm Gladwell had this interesting talk on the Pepsi Coke thing and why did it not work out. And this is one of the pitfalls of market research, right? So they went in and essentially destroyed the drink that had been so popular and done so well because of this market research, which when you actually look into it was giving them false evidence. Because usually when you do a taste test, you give the person a little bit of A and a little bit of B,
yeah,
right? So if someone has a little sip of something, they will always prefer the sweet over the less sweet because it's a small quantity, right? Whereas if you give someone, like, say, a full cup and say, drink this full cup or this full cup, they'll always prefer the less sweet because the sweetness becomes sickly over time, right? So in this taste test, obviously, they were giving the what do you call these people that do it?
Testers?
Taste testers?
Yeah, sure.
Go with that.
Focus group, innit?
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
So the focus group was drinking a little sip of Pepsi and a little sip of Coke, and obviously the sip of Pepsi being sweeter was like, oh, that's tasty, that stands out to me. So they all said that they preferred the taste of Pepsi. So Coke, on that bit of information, was like, right, we need to make our drink sweeter than Pepsi. Now people are buying full cans of Coke, drinking it, and they're like, damn, this is so sickly. Like, I can only drink like a third of the can. I don't want to finish it. It's so sickly. And so obviously they had to do a massive U-turn. It almost destroyed Coke, that one error in judgment. And I just think it's interesting. Maybe we can use that as a jumping off point to discuss, sometimes the data and the research and what we get back is misleading because we don't appreciate the nuances of sort of human psychology and behavior.
I agree. I think market research can be dangerous thing to do if you don't do it well. There's a famous quote, I'm not sure who it was. I'm going to say it's Henry Ford because everything seems to be Henry Ford. But
you've gone on about him a lot recently.
Have I?
Henry Ford?
Henry Ford, yeah.
Is he no nuns?
No, that was...
Donald Rumsfeld.
Donald Rumsfeld, right. Yeah. No, it's the old faster horse thing. You've heard that. If you ask the common man what they want back in the day.
Pre-car?
Pre-car.
Yeah.
I want a faster horse.
Yeah.
Do you actually want a faster horse? And it's that kind of... I think that's always the risk with market research. That...
Sometimes you just have to
people don't necessarily know what they want.
Yeah, because you were talking about something with a car as well earlier.
Yeah, I was trying to think, and I was doing a bit of research quickly before to try and find the company. But one of the flaws of market research is unless you're very clear in terms of who your target market is, and you go and ask that target market and understand deeply what it is that they want. One of the things that a car company did, I don't know the name, but they took a very broad approach. They asked, very different demographics, people living in different areas, different economic statuses, and they kind of brought all this together and all the feedback together and stuck it in one car. And it just didn't fly. It didn't work because they had built stuff in for very affluent people that wanted like high speed cars. They built stuff in for like kind of lower demographic people that probably wanted comfort, and it just became like a hitch. What's the word? Mishmash. That's the word.
Yeah,
a mishmash of different requirements, and
so it didn't have an identity.
Didn't work brilliantly for anybody. I think that's another example.
Yeah, and I think again, it might be Rory Sutherland that said this, but sometimes people won't actually tell the truth when you ask them what they want, or they don't. And you know, more commonly, people usually just don't actually know what they really want or what they really need.
It's true.
You know, if you might have experienced. I mean, not. We don't need to. It's not like I'm not trying to throw any of our clients under the bus or anything, but you might have experienced it when you've been having meetings with clients where some of the things that they want, you know that like they probably don't want that, but like they kind of almost feel pressured to come up with like, you know, information for you to then go away and build on. When you know, well, we've worked with X amount of companies, we know generally speaking, these are the top criteria that you need. And then maybe there's some like there's some sort of outlier stuff that you want to incorporate, but probably usually you figure that out after further down the line, rather than saying, oh, from day one it should have 20 cup holders because like, you know, this one time me and my mates were in the car and we all had 2 drinks and it's like really annoying or whatever.
I think that's you raise an interesting point there because we definitely have. There's a situation where, you know, we're the experts, so there's an element of, you know, I think there's not an like 100% onus on us, but there's an onus on us to advise best practice, consider X, Y, or Z. But equally, that's fine, and you know, we do that, and we say, you know, typically this is what our clients do, or this is what they ask for. But then you'll have some clients that are absolutely insistent. I want this, and this, and we know. Do you know what? That's going to be an absolute nightmare to put together. Do you really need it? And often what we do is question what's the percentage that you need that for?
Yeah.
You know, well, we get 6 a year. For us to deliver what that requirement is, you're not going to get return on your investment. Is it really that bad? And it's at that point where you get them to start thinking, because they come in with a very sort of belligerent, sort of focused, it must have all of these requirements.
Yeah.
And then when you kind of drill down, it's kind of like, actually, do you know what? Is there real value in delivering that, rather than, because often what we find is that I think the perception is, well, you know, the automation is going to do 100% of everything. It's not. Realistically, and you know, being sensible, if it can do 80%, 70%, whatever that figure is, that's 70% more efficient than it was before we knocked on the door. But you always get the extreme, and you know, I can be extreme in some of the things, you know, outside of work and work sometimes that I do. But it goes from 0, so we didn't have any automation, to the idea of automation. Well, it used to be 100%. If it doesn't, you know, and that's the thing. It's the mentality, but it's an education piece, and I think there is a responsibility on us to advise and
One of the ways that the big kind of e-commerce players have been, I guess, doing market research. It's a slight kind of variation on market research, is A/B testing. So if you think of a company like Amazon, you know, they will have multiple variants of their website live at any one time, and they'll be taking a new feature, and it might just be moving a call to action, moving a button from a few pixels to the right hand side, but they'll do that, and they'll put that live for like 1% of visitors to the site, and then they'll monitor what the performance of that 1% is versus the rest of the 99%. And if that sees an uptick in performance in terms of what they're trying to achieve, then they'll say, right, we'll take that and we'll roll that out across the other 99%. And I think that's a really interesting concept. So instead of just spending days, weeks, months running focus groups, working out to the nth degree, is this the right thing to do? let's test it. Let's test it with 1%. And if it's not the right thing to do, we'll find out. We'll find out quite quickly, and we'll find out quite cheaply. But if it is, let's roll it out.
No, and I think that sort of stuff's brilliant, and that's like 4-dimensional chess when you get to that level of sort of marketing. I do still wonder though whether some of the same pitfalls still apply. Like, because again, it can take more data into account and it can be more intricate, but I do wonder whether still, for whatever reason on that day with those people. But again, it's probably... No,
I'm not having that.
The website's probably constantly morphing. What do you mean, no way?
Oh, I'm not having that.
Well, go on.
Because then what we're saying is, in marketing and whatever, there's never... And I appreciate things change, but there's never a sort of we have an idea of what the audience wants or does, because, the A/B testing or, whatever, there are going to be variables, but at some point you've got to put your flag in the ground, and go, right, this is what the audience is saying, rather than going, well, on that particular day they had an icky tummy and actually, do you know what, they probably answered it differently. That's rubbish.
No, listen.
It is.
John, I'm not saying don't put a flag in the ground, but...
What you're saying is the results are never going to be set in stone.
Yeah.
They never are, but if we
that's exactly
correct.
You've got to have...
Guys, jumping into the conversation because I want to offer you a job. Well, not quite. But I do want to talk to you about Spectrum Digital. We are a business that is growing. We're an exciting business, and we're a business that is looking for top talent. We've got a great team here that are passionate about business, technology, and automation. We're passionate about making people's lives easier at work. And we're looking for people that are like-minded to come and join the team. If that sounds like you, then slide into my DMs, let's have a conversation, and I may well be offering you a job. Enough from me, back to the conversation.
But you've got to have a point where, so back in my old...
You've got a vague you've got a general target to aim at. I agree. Yeah. And obviously the beauty of the website is it's like morphing constantly and it's changing and you're never quite sure. And that is going to be a lot more accurate than relying on human beings to say, oh, I prefer this because it tastes sweeter.
But no, I accept that. But if we go to the whole A/B testing or A, B, C, D, E, F, G, whatever versions we want to put out,
multivariant testing.
Thank you. There we go. You're the intelligent one out of the two of us.
Disagree.
The multivariant testing. Ultimately, I'd like to think, and you two are probably way more in the know on marketing than me. I'm just like the consumer, if you will. Surely when you send out, let's say there's 6 variants, you're going to send it out to multi-demographics in our world, multi-job titles, multi-this, multi-that, to get a flavour across all the different demographics that you're looking for, to ultimately get a reasonable response, as in feedback, to go, do you know what, that's a really fair test. And actually the results show, hopefully, that 1 or 2 of the 6 variants are the way to move forward, rather than it. Now you'll probably come back to me and say you don't want multivariants because that then confuses.
No, I don't. Look, I think you need to calm down, John. All right, I just literally said, I just wonder if there's any sort of like chance that some of this data that's coming back is not correct. That's all I was saying. Okay, I'm not shitting on your precious Amazon or whatever or your algorithms, but I was just questioning it. What I will say is the thing about marketing, especially now, is it becomes this rapid cat and mouse game of, as the consumer gets more wise to the tactics of marketing, the marketers have to be more clever. The algorithms and the ad management systems have to adapt, probably like year by year, even probably month by month, as you said, with like Amazon and website changing. The different ad platforms are probably changing as well. Well, I say probably. I know they are. Like Facebook changing all the time, and it's removing a lot of that ability to have targeted data on the people that you want to go after. So it becomes this like sort of almost like like you're some sort of like gypsy shaman who's like got to read the what did he read? Not the cards.
Tarot cards.
No, but like you've got to,
tea leaves.
Yeah, exactly. You're like reading the tea leaves and you're like, oh, well, I think.
But I think that's why marketing, you've got 2 different types of people in marketing that I think you need in any good marketing function, which is the really creative guys that come up with the ideas. But then you also need the analytics, the statisticians.
Yeah.
Going back to the conversation, there will be the statisticians that will say, well, based on this many people visiting your website, if you put that live to this percentage of people, you're going to get a 95% confidence and a 5% margin of error, and we're pretty confident that it's going to be the right thing to do.
So is that where? Sorry, but I'll carry on. So we go back to the last pod with Mike. That's where AI could come in. So ultimately, where you want to get ahead of the game of your competitors or with whatever you're selling or providing, using AI, you can get those decisions much quicker. So taking the analytical side of a good marketing function, having that ability to get some responses or to get some insight to go, right, you know what, this is what we need to do, is the way forward, because you want to be able to respond quite quickly to what it is. But how do you do that because everyone's got budgets, haven't they? It's not an endless budget. So I don't know, you've only slightly off on tangent, but there was a boxing fight last night. It's probably one of the best marketing blooming feats going, because it's two nobodies who've got no talent and they've made loads of money.
Showing your age again, John. And don't say the winner, because I didn't see it, so I'm gonna check it out probably on my lunch break. But you're right. It's in terms of marketing.
That was a feat of marketing, because there were lots of people that obviously bought the fight, and you're like, what are you doing? And then they even created a belt. I mean, it's kind of like shock marketing. Suddenly, from nowhere, there's a belt, and you're like, and the winner puts his belt on his shoulder. And you're like, it's a Lego belt. It's not even real. What are you doing?
Right. So, what I think is interesting about that. So we've moved into another aspect of marketing. So what that is it's influencer marketing, right? And I'm not really, into boxing that much. I've got friends and family that are into it, and I pick up what little information I get from them. But as far as I understand, these YouTube influencers and TikTok stars or whatever have basically saved boxing, because boxing was on the decline in terms of the attention.
We need to do a timeout.
Listen, let me just finish my point, and then you can have your little hissy fit about it. But as far as I am aware, from what I'm hearing from my people who enjoy boxing, is that miles more people prefer UFC. Miles more people prefer mixed martial arts. And that gets way more eyeballs on those matches versus boxing. And boxing has been slowly in decline over the years, pretty much losing out to MMA. And now you've got these YouTubers with millions and millions of subscribers and followers that are bringing their young audiences to what could be considered a bit of an old man sport. Because, again, I don't really watch MMA either, but it seems to me that that's a lot more exciting and interesting than boxing. I've watched some boxing matches, and I'll be honest, fucking boring, right? MMA, kicking,
Yeah.
So,
battering each other. It's brilliant.
Me again. Okay, I want to talk about another process that we often get asked to automate, which is the processing of sales orders. So think about a sales order coming into an organization. Often it's in a PDF or attached to an email. We're using capture technology to extract the information from that sales order. We're checking what products are on there. We're matching it up against a database to say, do these products exist? We're checking the customer name to say, does this customer exist? We might even check the pricing to make sure the pricing is accurate. If all of that matches, then again, we can just push it straight into an ERP system or a finance system, and nobody has to touch it. If there are issues with it, if there are things that don't quite match, we just push that to somebody to manually review and check. But ultimately, again, we're pushing it into an ERP or finance system. It's all about making your life easier. It's about making your team's life easier. And it's about getting cash into your organization quicker and more efficiently. Hopefully that sounds good. If it does, then get in touch. Let's have a coffee and a chat. Enough from me. Back to the podcast. Bax is claiming that Jake Paul has saved boxing. JV, I'm just going to let you respond.
Yeah, but not just Jake Paul.
No.
Jake Paul, KSI,
Logan Paul,
a slew of TikTok boxers, some of the sidemen.
Whoa.
Like, it goes on. And they're more famous, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but
they're more
honestly,
famous than
my 12-year-old, some of the idiots that he follows that are gazillionaires churning out rubbish.
I agree.
So I suppose my point around this was, and we're kind of focusing more on the sport rather than the marketing side of it. But just to come back to you on the sport aspect of it, I think it's two very different things. You've got the purists that want to watch professional boxers that train really hard, not that these don't, train really hard, that have got an awful lot of skill, that go in there and they fight. And, there's at the end of it, it isn't just about, the millions of dollars that's going to go into their bank on the Monday morning. It's about legacy and things like that. What I will concede is actually what these influencers and these, YouTubers, etc., have done is they are at a very low level introducing the sport and opening that sport out to people that maybe wouldn't have considered boxing or, whatever pre that. But they are distinctly different, sports. You've got like, it's a bit like, karaoke and then like a professional band type scenario. You've got people trying, they haven't got much talent, but when you put two talentless people together, it actually looks quite good. You put...
It's on camera. It's here. It's a good example here. Sorry, carry on.
Wow.
They're just staring me in the face.
Yeah. Couldn't resist it, could you?
He couldn't. So I think they're very different. But the reason I brought that up was more around: should we use similar type marketing in a B2B environment? And if so, how would we go about it? Because ultimately, millions and millions of people tuned in.
Thank you, John. That was a great segue into allowing me to bring it full circle. So yes, we should, to answer your question, but also, again, it seems to me that the classic sort of legacy boxers, and you see this, like, if you go back to, I don't know, I mean, say Muhammad Ali, for example, right?
Even I can't remember that.
No, but like, this is like the sort of earliest idea of a boxer that I can think of.
Yeah.
Building a big, outrageous personal brand, right? And then over the years, there's been, I don't know. Again, I don't know boxing. Tyson, Lennox Lewis,
Tyson Fury.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
Having essentially what I'm getting at is not just in sport, but just across the board, you can't prosper without having a strong marketing campaign, without having but
it's got to be interesting marketing.
Well, but that's subjective. That's Coke and Pepsi again. But the thing is, when Jake Paul can come into the boxing ring, probably against, and I act like a Jake Pauler, as he calls his fans, very unimaginative, I know, but I imagine that he can come into the ring against any boxer, pick any boxer, right? That's currently Floyd Mayweather, for example, yeah, and he's got more of an audience that he brings to that fight than Floyd Mayweather, who is arguably they say the greatest boxer ever, right? So
I suppose boxers have done it the other way around, haven't they? Where they've built their brand in boxing and they've taken that outside of boxing and leveraged their brand. I had a George Foreman grill at one point. What does George Foreman know about grills?
Yeah.
But I guess it's just the other way around, isn't it? They've built a brand, they've built their personal brand, they're leveraging that, and then there's a load of money in boxing. So they're just using it for what they can.
Well, but I suppose, you could go to Formula One, and the previous sort of leader of Formula One 5 years ago was Bernie Ecclestone. One of probably the best marketeers going. And his was, he didn't mind a little bit of conflict. He encouraged a bit. He didn't mind stirring it. And then the older he's got, the worse he's got, in fairness. But he gets eyes on that sport.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that's all marketing is about, is getting eyes on a subject or things like that.
Yeah.
My point is about the whole, not shock, but being edgy, and how edgy can you be in our world, particularly sort of like.
Yeah, I mean, and that's an ongoing conversation, isn't it? It's tricky, in B2B, because just in business in general, because you're either got to be all in or you're not, kind of thing. And there are business people out there that are edgy and just say what they think, and they're not bothered about offending people or whatever, and if it works for them, it works for them, right? I mean, again, go back to, remember when Simon Cowell first appeared on the scene, and Gordon Ramsay, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was like, "Oh God, they're so cantankerous, can't believe it." But what we've got today makes them look just like so mild by comparison. It's like, oh, you swearing, Gordon? Oh, you're hard. Like, what's out there now? It's very.
So do you think we're going to see the same kind of influencer marketing that's happened in B2C? You can't release a product nowadays without having some social media star promote it. Do you think we're seeing that move into B2B? Has that got a place in B2B or not?
Yeah, I can't really see it going any other way. Like, especially because, look, the competition is everywhere, and there's different ways to succeed in business, right? So it doesn't necessarily have to be through marketing. So, and I realize now this is going to lead me into another little Coke Pepsi story.
Oh, nice.
But I think definitely if you want to play the marketing game in B2B from 2023 going forward, and you don't have that sort of influencer content at scale mindset, it's probably not going to work out. Like, because what else can you do? I mean, you can run ads and stuff. Yeah, that's fine. And if you've got a big enough budget and you're committed to it, then yeah, the ads will work, right? It's a bit trickier to make ads successfully. I mean, again, it depends what you do.
Do you mean social media ads, or do you mean advertising, TV, whatever?
No, absolutely not.
just social media.
Yeah, I mean, just digital, from a digital marketing perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, like
Google ads and
Google ads, yeah, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever. I mean, again, it's harder to achieve in B2B, but the rewards are higher, right? Yeah, you can convince someone on as a B2C marketer to buy like this water bottle for £5, because it's a low
value,
decision to make. But the difficulty in B2C would be, all right, but in order to benefit, I have to sell 1,000 of these like a month. Whereas obviously in B2B, maybe we can get a client, it's, 5-figure client. All right, it's going to take more resources to get that client, but when we do get them, then it's valuable and it pays off, and then it's consistent revenue as well. But yeah, I mean, look, it's why we do this podcast. It's why we're trying to make you the digital,
Be careful what you say.
I wanted alliteration. Yeah, digital. I'm not going to say it.
Let's jump onto the Coke story.
Yeah. Okay. So, the Coke story. Yeah. So different ways to. Sorry, she don't like my knuckle thing.
I do it as well. In fairness,
I don't like it.
No, I do it.
Yeah.
We digress.
Satisfying. Isn't it annoying though when one of them were?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
We'll have to edit this out as well, won't we?
I could probably. I don't know. All right, so Coke and Pepsi. So we're back at Coke and Pepsi.
Yeah.
There's different ways to succeed, right? So yeah, Coke and Pepsi. I mean, some of the biggest marketers and marketing campaigns like in the history of marketing, right? Billions upon billions that have been spent each year for Coke and Pepsi to try and who can be closest to the top. Like, we all agree Coke is the number one.
Yeah.
Fizzy beverage or soda if you're an American globally, right? And Pepsi's probably close behind that. I've got another story actually that's making me think about. But anyway, so Pepsi were just struggling to compete with Coke in the fast food market. Everywhere you would go, do you want Coke? Can I get Coke? Everyone wants Coke, right? In fact, I heard someone jokingly say that Pepsi's unofficial slogan for years was, is Pepsi all right? Because obviously everywhere you go, you ask for, can we have 3 Cokes, please? Is Pepsi all right? Like, I think it's not, but we'll drink that swill anyway. So they bring, which I don't care. When they say it to me, I just go, yeah, just, if it's black and fizzy, I'll drink it. Just bring it. So it was cheaper for Pepsi to compete against Coke in that sort of sector to just outright buy the franchise, the takeaways in the restaurants. Just go in and be like, right, we're going to buy KFC, we're going to buy Taco Bell, we're going to buy another one. There's another one I forget. And then we're just going to insist that it's only Pepsi. Like, so when you go there, they only sell Pepsi. And then boom, now we can just like corner a big section of the market.
It's a big chunk of the market. I heard, I don't know if this is true, that Coke sell theirs to McDonald's at pretty much no profit. It's all about just getting the brand out there.
Yeah.
Making people and stealing that chunk of the market.
Yeah, it's genius. Like, again, would the average business person consider to do something so extreme like that? Probably not. To buy all the KFCs across the world just so that Coke couldn't sell out of KFC.
I had a friend. So just on that point, I remember way back when that all started happening. I was proper put out when I couldn't have my Diet Coke, and it was Pepsi. All right, I was like, I suppose it'll have to be. And you know what? Actually, it wasn't for me because I'd then go Sprite, which is the same company anyway. But it was weird. I was put out that my right to choice had been taken. But just on what you were saying there, actually, I had a friend that was an account manager in the, I'm going to say the sort of model paints sector, if you will.
Right.
And basically was told, when you go around like talking to your accounts, if you see any of your competitors' product there, just buy it. Get it off the shelves and get ours on there. I was thinking, how does that make it? I get the premise of, right, we don't want theirs on the shelf, put ours on there. How's that cost effective?
Yeah.
Just to be going around. And he literally said every week his boot would be loaded with competitors' product because he was just going around buying it and pushing his stuff out there.
Wow. It's got to be a flawed business model, that.
Well, yeah, you're not wrong. He didn't stay there too long. He didn't really like that model.
That is absolutely mental.
Well, it is.
Did you do it then?
No, it wasn't me. It was a friend.
Oh, okay, right.
But no, he did it once and then went, yeah, this isn't for me, and see you later. But ultimately, that was the mindset of, actually, yeah, we just want our product to be seen and not the competitors, rather than, actually, we'll just go side by side, and whichever the consumer wants, they'll select.
There's been no challenger brand into that market, I don't think, has there? I'm trying to think. Virgin. Do you remember Virgin Coke? Virgin Cola?
Well, I mean, let's be fair. He tried everything, didn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, he had Virgin slippers
actually
as well, probably. And the other thing I was intrigued about, or I'm intrigued about, is the what made Coke number one?
Yeah.
And how far behind were Pepsi? And when Pepsi did this this thing about, you know what, we'll just buy
the
outlets,
franchises. Yeah.
What impact did that have?
Yes. See, the why, as far as I can tell, Coke is number one because basically it was just the first to market. Because I think Coke,
they're the one, they don't put their recipe on the cans, do they?
No, and I don't know if Pepsi do either.
Well, I don't know, but that was always the big thing.
Yeah. Are we still? Did we keep rolling? Yeah, cool. Because we couldn't keep it all in. I like the.
What's Steve going to go for a week?
I just like the more sort of like in the moment sort of. But yeah. So back to the Coke and Pepsi thing. You're right. So John was just saying about how. Red Bull. Like Red Bull, you know who they represent, who they sponsor, right? I mean, don't they have a Formula One?
Yeah. Well, two Formula One teams.
Yeah, and then they've got all of the extreme sports. You know, the Felix Baumgartner.
Yeah, great jumping from the edge of space.
Yeah. So, and then all I can really think of, Coke, is the what's he called? Best footballer in the world. You probably have different
Messi. Ronaldo.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Ronaldo. When at the press conference there was Coke on the desk in front of him, and he moved it out the way of himself.
Yeah.
And he said something like, "Oh, just drink water." And didn't Coke stop?
The share price dropped, didn't it?
Yeah. Just because he was like, "Nah, that's not good for you," type thing. So it's interesting. I think Red Bull and any other business product, whatever, have to be more aggressive if they're the underdog in the market in doing things to make themselves stand out, right? Coke is has held that position as
It's unbelievable brand. I'm trying to think of a brand that's bigger and more kind of synonymous with
Than what?
American culture
Than Coke.
Yeah, probably Nike is the only one that I reckon is
Yeah.
close.
yeah, but not even close though, really. Especially in value of the company and
Really?
global recognition. Nike,
Yeah.
Nike's like Nike's pretty low down.
I want to.
I can't really remember, but I know there was some. I seen some videos. You know when like the Kanye West Adidas thing was going on, there was a lot of talk about the different brands and stuff, and I hear about Nike being like quite low down, in terms
that
of
would surprise me.
value.
That would
But before we come away from it, so the Red Bull thing. So Rory Sutherland said the thing about Red Bull, and this is what's cool about counterintuitive thinking around marketing and products and stuff like that, is for years people had tried to compete with Coke, including Pepsi, and the three sort of main metrics would always be, all right, well, it should taste better than Coke, obviously. It should come in a bigger can, so you're getting more value for money, and it should be cheaper as well. So if we do all those three things, then why would someone not pick our beverage over Coke? And it never worked. And the only soft drink beverage that has come close to Coke is Red Bull, which comes in a tiny can, is very expensive, and it tastes a bit weird. And so all of the, if you went into a meeting and said, I think we should charge more, give less, and it should have like a weird aftertaste, you'd get laughed out of the meeting, right? But yet that turned out to be the product that has come closest. And then he goes on to say that the reason it can get away with those things is because it has this like faux medicinal claim of giving energy, you know, when it probably doesn't, right? But it's basically, it's almost like a medicinal beverage. And again, for psychologically, we associate medicine with potency, hence smaller dose. We associate medicine with it has like it might taste like strawberries, but there's something in there. It's like something going on there.
Slightly medicinal.
There's some aftertaste in there, and we would feel more confident. You know, like I've been guilty of going in and buying a £3.50 paracetamol, even though you can get Tesco brand for like 80p, and I know that it's the same tablet inside because I've seen whoever, the money expert or whatever, on this morning explaining the code for the tablet is the same on both. But you know, I go and I buy that one because I'm like, I've got a £3.50 headache today, so I'm gonna buy that.
Really? You buy the
No,
£3.50?
I don't. I have in the past. I have in the past.
my
We are paying
days.
you too much.
But a lot of
I thought that for a while. And now
a lot of people do buy the more expensive
it's
brands.
mental. Sorry, before
Is that because of brand loyalty though?
It's just because there's something about the brand that makes them feel like it's been tested. They've tested the 80p paracetamol versus the £3.50 paracetamol, and people report the headaches going away quicker with the more expensive paracetamol.
it's got to be like a placebo, isn't it? It's got to be.
Yeah, it's just a psychological association.
Do you know? Sorry, go on.
Yeah, so basically that's what I'm saying with Red Bull. These are the three factors that make it successful, but they're counterintuitive.
So,
And also, sorry, just while I'm on this, another interesting marketing campaign from Red Bull is they would go around popular areas like clubbing areas or whatever, or just like busy, like Trafalgar Square, whatever, and just load up bins with empty Red Bull.
they used to have the certainly when I was down south, they used to have the VW Beetles, and they'd have a can sticking out the roof, like a massive, like 6 foot and 8 foot thing, and you know, they get, you know, models to drive around.
Ambassadors, didn't they?
Yeah.
Ambassadors around the country that go around in those stupid
and it's
cars.
just getting it in your psyche. You know, it's like, you know, Red Bull gives you wings. You know, it gave me wings once when I had 3 pints of straight Red Bull. Funnily enough, I didn't sleep for 2 days, but there we go. So from that side of things, the caffeine works.
You know, when America joined the Second World War, they had to open up 3 Coca-Cola bottling plants in the UK to keep them fed with Coca-Cola. Part of the agreement.
What, the soldiers?
The American GIs, when they came over, they insisted on having 3 bottling plants set up to feed them Coca-Cola.
Really?
There you go. That's my Coca-Cola story.
So
that's brilliant.
I'm taking it a little bit back on a full circle, going back to the talentless influencers, right? Talentless, exceptionally wealthy, and when they get an idea, they can make it run. My son, as I've mentioned on many a podcast, is 12 going on 13. Prime.
Yeah.
Oh my, Logan Paul.
Prime energy drink. Yeah.
I mean, it's horrendous.
Have you drunk it?
No, I've sniffed it and it's horrendous. but there's my sister-in-law went last week. She was in some shop, and there's two mums literally having a physical fight over the last bottle of Prime because little Johnny wants it, and it's like, what's? It's just a drink with a flavour that's probably there's no energy, there's no medicinal benefits, no nothing.
It's got some salt in it.
It's just got but it's even that. It's just the branding is bright. It's it's alive, and like Oliver's now starting to put it on his windowsill, and I'm thinking, what are you doing?
Have you tried it, Bax?
I haven't.
Have you not?
I should. Have you?
No, I haven't. No.
Ellie?
I tried it. I went to a birthday.
Yeah.
Saturday. And the shop selling it for
Wow.
Really? What's the usual
In
going rate?
Wivensey?
£2 in Asda.
And you know, it's funny. I saw a clip on TikTok where they were discussing how much they made. Something like 140 million in FS year, just on Prime between KSI and Logan Paul.
Yeah.
Formerly enemies.
Adversaries.
Yeah. That have come together to create this drink. It's, from a marketing perspective,
You know what? Fair
It's
play
ingenious.
to them. Fair play to them.
But what does it say about us as a consumer that we just fall? That everyone follows these people on social media. The power of social media is there's one of your greatest examples, and everyone's like fighting it. There's a bloke in Wakefield, Wakey Wines or whatever.
Yeah.
He's now this YouTube.
he's become famous.
It's
hasn't he?
sensation because he's selling it for whatever, and you're like, what is the world
And
coming to?
people are imitating him, aren't they? Yeah.
It's like
Has he? Do you know what I mean? Look, it's just, you've got to respect the hustle, and it just goes to show you.
I respect it, but
it's visibility.
It's a sad indictment, though.
No, well, yeah, it is, but this is what we are. We think we're so, superior as human beings, but we're quite simple creatures. We buy ideas. We buy stories. We think we're buying the thing because we want the thing, but we buy what the thing represents. And
the fear of missing out, FOMO. It's like Oliver was going mental when he couldn't get one, and I'm like, well, I'm not driving anywhere for it, and then
he'd do anything.
His
to get
auntie
it.
came up trumps, but it's like, wow, just because everyone, it's like you put enough out there, you flood the market and the channels with news, and then suddenly it's like and there's a novelty factor, but will Prime be a bit like when we're in a previous podcast talking about Fang and the ones that would stay and the ones that would sort of dwindle? Prime won't be with us in 12 months' time.
No, I disagree.
They might have broadened it out into a broader category.
Milkshake.
Yeah, milkshakes. But
No, it most certainly will. Didn't Dana White make it the official drink of
UFC?
Yeah. Trust me, they're all smart enough and wise enough to know what's going on. And now you've got this huge network, this huge web of influencers and famous people, and you're always going to see them drinking Prime. And then you take it down a level, then you've got the sort of lesser sort of influencers. You've maybe got 1 million followers on TikTok or whatever, and you'll get paid to just be always having Prime in the background or drinking it or whatever. And then the micro influencers who've got like 5,000 or 10,000 followers. So just across the board, your son has got no chance. Like he is going to live and die for Prime for at least probably the next 5 to 10 years. And if they're making 140 million in their first year, they're probably going to make more their second year. They're going to make billions by the time it's all said and done. And then just walk away and be like, there we go. We made billions selling water with some flavour.
Exactly.
I think he's right. He's convinced me. They're the celebrities of today, aren't they? You grew up with Dalgleish, did you? I don't know.
Yeah.
That was your hero.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Dalgleish.
This
Kenny Dalglish.
Kenny Dalglish. This generation grew up with Logan Paul as their Kenny Dalglish.
And Steve, I was thinking that when Bax was talking then, I was actually thinking, do you know what? It's sort of sad to me that in 5-10 years' time, the likes of Logan Paul, Jake Paul, KSI and whatever, for all their talents, there'll be.
You've got to give them credit.
No, I absolutely do. Honestly, flip me, they could stop now, and I could work for another 1,000 years. I'm never going to get to their wealth. But it's sad that people they haven't really got talent. It's just they've jumped onto a medium that is now they're out there. Because if we go back 30 years, no, you're shaking your head, it's true.
Yeah,
if you go back 30 years, some of the people with proper talent in sport or in arts or in whatever would be off the charts now in this era.
But I suspect people will look back in 20 years' time at Logan Paul and think, my God, that guy, like, he broke through. He was the person that started all this, or one of the people that started all this, and he'll have gone down in history in that sense.
I don't disagree, and fair play to them.
Yeah.
They've latched onto something, and they've they're pushing it forward. They're pushing boundaries, and absolutely, I've got utmost respect. But it's when they start going in. We're now back to where we started. When they start going into they're boxers. No, you're not. You're a sideshow, but in your realm. Yeah,
they're a brand, brilliant. And they are leveraging that brand wherever they can.
Yeah. I mean, look, saying that they've got no talent, and I get it, it's easy, right? Because there's
real talent.
My daughter's 5, right, and she watches like these absolute cretins that do like Minecraft videos and stuff. Yeah, and they have to exaggerate and put on, vocal tonations that just. They make me want to break the TV and rugby kick my kid out the window and just like destroy the internet, and I can't stand it, right? But she enjoys it. They're making a lot of money. They're providing her with what she wants, and in turn, they're making money out of it, right? So I don't get it, and I'm sure when I was 5, I also watched some stuff that drove my mum crazy, right? And it's all comparative. But I think to say that they've got no talent is just... wrong. It's just a massive, and I know you're coming at it
it's
from
a generalization,
like a boxing perspective.
Yeah.
But even with the boxing thing, I ain't into boxing, but like from everything that I can see, Jake Paul is actually really good at boxing, and he puts a lot of practice into it, and he's had some legit fights with some actual fighters, and he's beaten them. And there are people coming into it who like let's say they do like the YouTube boxing charity match, right? That should be seen as separate from boxing as a sport. They do that to raise money from charity. They bring in, it's like the sidemen in YouTube All Stars. So I took my son to some stadium in London where you had sidemen, which is KSI's gang, and YouTube All Stars, which is a collection of the most popular YouTubers at that time, who basically had a football match for charity. The whole stadium full with 10, 12, 14-year-olds. Just loving it, and I'm just looking at it in awe at how could they bring this many kids into a stadium, how much money have they raised. This is the fame of these guys, and this was like 4 or 5 years ago. Now the actual boxing, as far as I can tell, you've got KSI, you've got Jake Paul, you've got Logan Paul, Tommy Fury. Obviously, I know he's not a YouTuber, but like he's Tyson Fury's brother, right? So is he riding on the coattails of his brother, or?
Yeah, definitely. He's not a brilliant boxer, is he? That's the issue, though, isn't it? Because I think the winner of the fight, won't tell you who it was, but the winner of the fight goes into the top 40 for their weight division.
WBC.
Which puts them, if they actually have to then fight a proper boxer, no offence, next, that puts them at risk, doesn't it? We're putting people's lives at risk.
But what? So if they beat that proper boxer...
Yeah, they won't.
They won't.
But if they do, you'll accept them.
But there's more chance of them getting seriously injured than beating a proper boxer at that level. Because we're talking about the best in the world at their weight. And they're not going to beat them.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. I mean, I'm not going to overstep the mark here. I don't really know who these people are, what the boxing is. But in terms of the talent, they've got talent. They're multimillionaires. They've built empires. I mean, how is it not talent? How is it not talent to go from I make videos of me playing games in my bedroom on YouTube like 10 years ago. I build up a following and some fame, and then I tactically start to implement more and more things. So for KSI, I get my mates together and I build a group around me called the Sidemen, and they all now have channels and they're all millionaires. And now we have Sidemen products and clothing and merch, and now we're going to get into sports and boxing and create events. I was at my mum's yesterday. My sister was watching there's this show on BBC called The Wheel. So
Yeah.
some sort of quiz show, whatever.
Yeah, general knowledge, yeah.
And it was the Sidemen takeover of this show. And again, boxing, quiz show on BBC, daytime. The vast majority of people are not watching these things, right? They're watching YouTube, they're watching Netflix. Most of my generation and under are not watching TV. If the Sidemen go on this quiz show, then my son will go and watch this quiz show because the Sidemen are on it. The value of these content creators and influencers is way higher than these these institutions that are just down with each year because they fail to keep up and they fail to innovate and they fail to change. Boxing are lucky, in my opinion, that all these influencers have come in and shone a light back onto boxing and made people interested in it again. When actually the sport of boxing should have been doing that themselves. And they've already been overtaken by MMA, which at a point was seen as like, that's never going anywhere. Conor McGregor.
You know what? I think you've convinced me. I think you have.
Convinced you of what?
Maybe not save boxing, maybe that is extreme, but it's been overall a positive thing for boxing, bringing a new audience to that sport that would never have engaged with it until this point. I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think the term saved boxing is strong because I think it was very prosperous before these three clowns came along. But what it has done has introduced the sports or art of boxing to a new audience that actually, with a bit of luck, will see those and go, do you know what? I will look at some proper boxers and go, actually, yeah. So absolutely. And it was a massive generalization to say they haven't got any talent because they evidently have talents that are appealing to people. It's just in certain, I'm going to say genres, but in certain sports or activities where they don't really have much talent, but they've got a following, they can make an event happen. So ultimately the talent is they're unbelievable self-marketeers.
Yeah.
Let's leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us, Bax. Thanks again, mate. JV, and catch you next time.
Producer Ellie wanted to try it, so
I'm intrigued.
she's also going to fail, but you know.
I'm not going to
And
fail.
then the gents have gone-
That's your reasoning for coming into the video, just to tell everyone I'm going to fail. I know what that is. I do. Well, actually, smells like Pepsi, tastes like Kirk. Oh, I do. Oh, damn.
It's hard, isn't it?
Kirk, Pepsi.
Do you want to?
I nearly swore then. That's Kirk. Did I say that was Kirk or Pepsi?
You said that was Pepsi. You got them wrong.
Nah, 100%. 100% you put Pepsi in there and Kirk on the bottom.
No. Absolutely denial, isn't she?
It's not right to be wrong.
It's not.